All right, in the studio here with Khordmaster. How's it going, Kevin?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited to be here today. It's always a nice thing to be a guest on a podcast when you're so used to being the host all the time. And both of us are kind of hosting and guesting today,
Mm-hmm.
being guests today. So, yeah, it's going to be a great time. Really excited to talk about myself and to hear about, your experience and everything like that. So I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a new experience for both of us to be in both the interviewer and interviewee seats. So it'll be
Definitely.
fun. So yeah, we'll start off getting to know you first, and then we'll switch seats, and then at the end we'll kind of talk about our experiences as content creators and our thoughts so far. But
Hmm.
yeah, getting to know Chordmaster. So I always like to start out with people's childhood and hearing what young Kevin was like. Where did you grow up, and what were you like as a kid?
Yeah, so I was born in the Bronx. I have an older brother, younger sister, and two loving parents, and very tight knit family growing up. A lot of family vacations. One of the great childhood memories is every summer for many years, we used to drive down to Orlando, Florida, and we have family down there. So maybe like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years we've driven down there. And, my parents would always make sure that their kids were occupied and entertained, right? And so this is maybe like, let's see, prior to fifth grade. So maybe like second grade through fifth or first through fifth, something like that. And I used to be, and I still am. I didn't think I'd still be this much into video games at 34 years old, but hey, that's what it is. I used to always really love like handheld games a lot back in the day. And so back then, my dad would have like the cigarette lighter adapter in the car, and he'd have all the cables and all set up so that we can, just be able to be occupied and enjoy the trip down. So we had some great memories with that. I was in an a cappella choir
Hmm.
in fifth grade, and we had a chance to sing at Rockefeller Center, which was
Wow.
a highlight and a great time. And that was, yeah, some really great memories, with that as well. And in terms of kind of what I was like as a kid, so I was very silly and joking, and I used to do all that type of stuff, and just more of like the type of humor that I guess is an acquired taste, like random humor, that type of thing is
Like
what I would
memes
do.
and pranks.
Yeah, yeah, pranks specifically.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's something that I like, doing things to get people's reaction.
Mm.
I thought was so entertaining to me as a child. And fast forward, what, 25 years, 30 years later, that is still so intrinsically part of me. Like literally this morning, my wife and I are having a conversation. She comes in the room, and the conversation I can see is going to be something that might be something funny or something entertaining. Like, because she's so funny to me and to a lot of people. She's a very like dry humor kind of person, and so for me, like I just love capturing those moments and then maybe doing something with them. But I have to obviously respect her, level of privacy. She's not as like into being on social media and all that type of stuff. So part of my like plan, my master plan, is to, capture these moments, whether it's record them with the video or voice record them, or just take a note of like something she says or something interaction we have, and then like doing something with that. I believe that a lot of people who are like producers of cartoons or of shows, or even writers of fiction books, like call on past experiences, and so that's something that's in my mind. Like I have like a wealth of just funny and interesting, thoughts or experiences that I want to adapt somehow, later on. Um, but yeah, definitely a funny person, definitely studious. I remember we moved to New York, to New Jersey, when I was, which is where we currently live, when I was in to start sixth grade. And at that time, I remember being placed in like the normal math class, because I think something about like my scores or something. They didn't know exactly where to place me, so I was in a regular math class that year. End of that year, I recall taking like the whatever that test is to see your placement test for the following year to see what level you should go to. And I must have knocked it out of the park, because from that point, seventh grade onward, I was in straight up honors math classes. Like that was my
Nice.
thing. And then I was going to talk about later on, but that's not so much childhood. Like college, I ended up doing engineering and stuff as a result of being really into math and into sciences and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's a little bit about my childhood.
Fun. Yeah, it
Uh-huh.
sounds yeah, I'm just imagining young Kevin pulling pranks on his brother and sister and all kinds of fun and
Always.
games. Yeah.
Hmm.
So then switching into your adult life, you spent a big chunk of your working life working in corporate at Verizon, right? Which like
Hmm.
on the surface sounds like very serious and buttoned up, and I'm curious if that was your experience where you had like a work self and a life self, or did you feel like you could really be yourself at work and grow into who you are today?
Yeah, fantastic question. So I spent about 12 years at Verizon, and I remember that's a really good question. It's a really important thought, something that I've realized is very important in, like you just said, balancing your personal life and your work life, as well as, and we'll talk about this in a moment, perhaps during the latter part of the show. But like your professional or your professional sort of personality, professional personality. I don't know if that's the right way I want to say it, but like who you are as like your brand versus who you are as a person. If these two things are vastly different, then we're talking about sort of you know Jane Z as the host of this show versus Jane Z as just your regular self. If they're vastly different, then it's kind of like it's a lot of work to have to be two different people, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I remember being told that or learning that or something when I was at Verizon, and kind of realizing that I was able to be myself at work and essentially be the same person that I am at home. And that this even goes into my teaching career, like very much just, this is Kevin, this is Mr. Allen, this is, as a teacher, this is Kevin. And just being pretty much 100%, organic and natural. Um, and that really, really, really worked for me because it made things just flow. It made things flow from the Verizon perspective, I think. And just in general, I think a lot of people really appreciate and value genuine. I was about to say genuinity. That's not a word. Genuine.
You've coined
They
a new
appreciate
word.
Yeah, exactly. Genuinity. Okay, you guys spell that out for me. Genuinity. But they really value that, I think. And so yeah, being able to be that person was just fantastic for me. And my time at Verizon, I held about 5 or 6 different roles there in my 12 years. And as I have a chance to reflect on that and think about what that time has meant in terms of some connections that I've had, and certainly in terms of just how to interact with people, the importance of networking. There's so much stuff that I learned while I was there that I am very much able to just apply to pretty much everything I'm doing right now. And it's really just a great story. And it's a great thing because some people can say, oh man, like I've had these thoughts before. I was like, man, if I didn't go to school for engineering, like imagine if I went for a music degree and just stuck like fully to something musical, which is definitely my passion, hence the name
Mm,
Chordmaster.
yeah.
Things would have been different though, right? There's things that I rely on from an engineering perspective, things I rely on from I don't think it's in the frame, I don't know if it is, but like from my master's degrees and MBA that I'm able to like apply explicitly to what I'm doing. And it's making things just more fun, and it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like, wow, that stuff is coming into use right now.
Yeah. I think of it as different lenses, right? Like your
Hmm.
degrees and your different work experiences, those give you different tools and ways to look at the world. But they don't have to define you who you are. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and ask you about the music point because you brought that up.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like let's talk music. It seems to be your big passion in life. How did that enter your life early on, and who are some of the artists that inspire you?
So yeah, when I was really young, I recall being able to play the keys by ear, which, I hear a simple melody and I can kind of figure out how to replicate it. And that was something that I kind of dabbled with a little bit. One of my most memorable Christmas gifts was a Yamaha 61 key keyboard, which I believe my parents still have in the shed. I probably should go over there and like try to uncover that and like connect it. And I might want to do that one day, actually. That would be like a fun unboxing sort of video for my channel. But I remember just loving being able to create music, as simple as that may sound. But it was just a really fun thing for me. So in sixth grade, my parents signed me up for piano lessons. And so I can learn how to read music and kind of do some proper training and stuff. And that was a great experience. And I had one recital, and I remember the song. I remember exactly how the song goes. I mean, this is sixth grade, which I think is kind of cool because I don't know if that's normal or not. I guess in the sense of being able to literally sit on the piano right now, and I haven't tried to play this song in 20 years or however many years. Um, but I remember how it goes. It was a Russian etude, and maybe I will try to replicate it as best of my memory. Like to try, that might be a fun exercise. Um, but after that ended in sixth grade, I asked my parents if I can take the summer off and sign back up in the fall. Story goes, I never did. I mean, I did take the summer off, but I never signed back up. And then, life happens, and just kind of did other things like play pranks with my brothers and sisters, and did great in math and did engineering and did all this stuff. And then sort of got back into it a little bit sort of in my late teens, right? I got a better keyboard, and I did some more music producing type things at that point, and then stopped for a long while. And then as I approached my 30th birthday is when I really was like, man, I want to get back into this, but I want to get back into playing the piano and learning it the proper way. So I literally found the same exact piano book that I used when I was in sixth grade, which like the physical actual one I still have in my closet there. I went through that entire book, did some YouTube lessons, did a lot of reading, signed up for piano lessons actually with a person, and did a couple of years of that. And now it comes to the point where it's just so much fun. And now, specifically right now, like I feel like I have a really great grasp on a lot of different things, musical things that are like core concepts, as well as things that are a little bit further out there, or things that are a little bit more like something that I don't think there's information about, or just any material about. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, when I was learning a classical song by Bach on the piano, I decided to try to play it with my eyes closed, right? Because instead of looking down at the keys, I want to see how well I know this song. So I close my eyes, I start playing. I'm like, wow, I can actually play this quite well. Like, I pretty much know it from muscle memory. So I'm playing it, and I had no idea what that experience was going to do for me. But specifically, and I did research on this afterwards to understand why this was happening. As I'm playing this song, it was like probably 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. My eyes are closed, and I'm playing this Bach song, the prelude. I'm not going to do it, but it's dun, 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 dun. So I'm playing that song,
Mm-hmm.
and wouldn't you know, as I'm playing it, I had an experience unlike anything that I've ever experienced before. I felt, Jane, like I was floating off of the stool that I was sitting on. I felt like I was not sitting there. I felt like I was
Whoa.
playing it, and I was just like hovering above the piano. And the best way I can describe it is like I felt like I was literally being lifted up, and like I'm like reaching down to play it or something. I feel like I'm hovering above the piano. It was crazy. Wasn't
Whoa.
taking any drugs, nothing crazy like that. No drinking, no nothing. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is incredible. Like, what's happening here? So I do a little bit of research, and I find out that a pretty significant part of your brain is being used to process everything you see. And so when you're playing and your eyes are open, a big part of your brain is like processing what you're seeing as you're playing. When your eyes are closed, there's nothing that you can see. It's all black. So like that part of your brain is opened up to do these crazy other things musically when you're into it like that. And it was just profound. It was a profound moment for me where, circling back to sort of my thought, and when you asked earlier in our before recording part of the conversation, we were just chatting. I had some great clarity on what to do with information like that, based on the fact that I have a YouTube channel, I have a presence, I have an audience, and how to share that type of information in a way that is very periodic, like weekly. This day, this time, you're going to get maybe I'll unveil it now. I'm going to have a new series called Khordmaster Keys, which is going to be very
Ooh.
much for music producers slash pianists or keyboardists. And it's going to have little segments, kind of like what I just shared with you just now. And I'm really excited about being able to share these types of these types of findings with people.
Wow, amazing. When you were
Hmm.
talking about the playing by ear as a kid, I immediately thought of Corey Henry. I don't know if you listen to his stuff, but
I don't know.
oh my God, he's amazing. He's amazing keyboardist. I guess gospel funk would be the genre. But
Wow.
there's a
Okay.
video of him at like 5 years old where he just improvs, like plays this whole thing, and it's
Whoa.
wild, like how naturally it can come to you. And then
Yeah.
the 180 of that is like my own experience with learning piano was like very much the opposite, where it was like super regimented. So maybe I should try playing with my eyes closed.
Hey, you know what? It's worth a shot. And literally, yeah, literally doing that. Even if you're not playing something specific, even if you're just, because you're a musical person as well. I mean, look, I listened to your amazing harmonizing video again the other day, and when I say like that's amazing, like that is exactly that. It's amazing listening to every single one of you. I think there was five of them, right? But
Yeah.
like listening and like being able to like separate, like that's clearly takes skill, and it just sounded really great. So you have some amazing skills yourself, my friend.
Oh, appreciate that. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much.
No
Um,
problem.
yeah, I love that you're also a teacher because your passion for music and the way you think about it is infectious. And I wonder if you could talk about your approach to teaching in music, but also with math. Do you start out by hooking your students in with some sort of like personal way to understand the subject or the music before kind of breaking down the technical, or how do you think about these things as a teacher?
Yeah. So before I answer that, I'm gonna just throw out there. I just remembered I didn't say one thing about the previous question, which was musical influences. So
Mm,
Tyler the Creator is one of my huge musical influences. Kanye West is.
yes.
Those probably are my top two in terms of like stuff that I feel like my music sounds like, and it's very much inspired by. But in terms of the stuff that I listen to, it's just so vast. There's so much. It's like anything that sounds good to me, like I'll listen to, no matter the genre. So there's too many artists to name, but those two I'll just specifically point out as like current ones that I'm like very much excited about. Um, and then back to teaching, man, what an experience teaching was, Jane. What an experience! 2 short years. I didn't know that it was going to be only 2 years. I knew it wasn't going to be retiring as a teacher. I knew that, but I didn't know it was just going to be 2 years. I thought maybe 5 or 3 or 4, but COVID happened, and that very much accelerated things for me in two ways. One, it made what was the best year working professionally, the pre-COVID, the year before, first year of teaching, best year out of anything. Like it was that good of a year, from the eighth grade faculty basketball game to the ugly sweater contest before Christmas break, when everyone, students and teachers, are all just so excited about that time right before Christmas break. We have 2 weeks off and everyone's just having a blast, and we had a big assembly, to the fact that I had a chance to play the piano in front of the whole school during the Martin Luther King assembly, where they asked me to do it, and I was so nervous at the time. I was like, ugh, I don't play in front of people like that. But I did, and it was an incredible experience. And I got even a little bit emotional because during that same assembly, we had some kids in the school that gave speeches and spoke about MLK and spoke about racial injustice and that type of thing.
Mm.
And it was just incredible. We're talking, my school goes from what, K to eighth grade, so we had some of like the middle schoolers give just really profound things that they said, and there's a not endless, literally endless, but there's a whole lot of different things in terms of the experiences that I had at the school. Certain kids that you want to watch out for. Okay, you have him in your class or her in your class. Make sure you don't sit these two next to each other because they're just going to derail the class and this and that. So I'm like, okay, I'm mindful of that. But then fast forward as the year goes on, I start getting to know the kid and understand a little bit about why he or she is acting this way. And then by the end of the year, like, we're tight. We're tight. He understands that I respect him, and that I keep saying him or her, but specifically this one I'm talking about is a him. Um, But yeah, it was just an incredible experience. And in terms of, I guess, the way, that I my teaching style, delivery, whether it's in person teaching as a teacher, or my tutoring business now, or even with piano lessons, is very much in a way that I try to balance two things. I try to balance doing what I can to make sure that the students are enjoying themselves, coupled with doing what I can to make sure that the students are learning. I believe that those are just the two most important things, and making sure that the students understand that you, especially in the classroom setting, like you respect them. Like, the respect is like it's a mutual. It's not like I'm the teacher, you're gonna respect me, and I don't have to respect you guys because I'm the teacher. It's just very much just like we're on the I am the teacher, but like you're gonna get what I'm expecting to get from you, right? Back and forth. And yeah, it was just really those two things, just making sure that students felt comfortable asking questions. Like, one of the things in my tutoring business now that I love is the fact that when I'm first getting to know the student, naturally they're, especially with things being remote, naturally they're sometimes a little bit hesitant to maybe ask questions, or they're maybe not as comfortable as they feel like they want to be, and things like that. But as time goes on, weeks go on, and we have more and more sessions, and we get to know each other, then it turns into just very much something that I believe, and it is true, because getting feedback from parents, but the kids are really looking forward to the sessions, and that is it right there for me, right? It's like I know that they're learning because I know exactly the curriculum that we're going over, and it's very, very precise and specific. But I also know that it would be a hard sell for parents to have to, and parents will do it anyway, of course, ones that really care about their kids and stuff. But um it would be a hard sell for them to like have to weekly get their student on board with coming to the session, if the kids are just like, no, I don't want to go. It's like you don't want to have that sort of battle. So I know that it's important for it to be somewhat fun and just relaxed, but also that they're getting the knowledge. And that's exactly how I sort of conduct every single one of my sessions, whether that's math or with piano.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
You're a busy guy, Chordmaster. You've
Very.
got your music stuff, you've got your tutoring business, and you also create content and host a podcast. As a podcaster, I'm very curious, who have been your favorite interviews so far? Besides me, of course.
Besides you, yeah. Man, so there's been a lot of great ones. So I'll just name a few. So I had some episodes that were in person, and most of them that were virtual. So a few that stick out to me would be, having my best friend on as an in-person interview or conversation, literally sitting on the couch and picking topics out of a hat and just having that conversation. It was a two-part. It was like probably a 3-hour chat that we had, but I ended up doing two different parts to that. And what's nice about that episode is just the fact that at the time I knew that this is going to be special, because we are later going to be able to look back at this, years later, months later, and have like a sense of nostalgia and like enjoy rewatching us talk to each other. And I'm sure our friends and stuff could, find value and enjoy it as well. And as I was kind of doing some housekeeping with my content on my website and stuff, and I'm looking through every single episode, and that one, came up, and I'm like, I felt that sense of nostalgia. That was probably like, I don't know, 6 months ago or something like that. And I was like, man, this was so fun. So fun to have that talk. So that would definitely be one. Another really nice one was I had a chance to interview a celebrity chef. I think she said she doesn't like being referred to as that, but that's okay. But she cooks for Carmelo Anthony, basketball player,
Mm.
and just talking to her about her experience, what got her there. She actually went to high school with me, and what got her to that level was super interesting and inspiring. And then several people in the music space. So with me and a lot of things that I do musically, I had a chance to talk to two people, well, several people, but two in particular I'll mention that are prominent. One of them is the sole developer of one of my most used music app called Koala Sampler on the iPad. And so the creator of that app I was able to have on, and just a great guy. And we did a live premiere on that one. So naturally, a lot of people who use this app as well. all joined, and we were all chatting in the YouTube chat box there, which was like I think that was the first time that I did that type of live premiere option for that. So it was just really, really fun there. My video editing creator for LumaFusion on my iPad, I had a chance to talk to the co-founder of that company, which was, again, all these people that I don't know much about, but I use their app, getting a chance to talk to them and see what they're like and understand like what that process was like this app just wasn't, created in the blink of an eye. There was like a whole process that it, had to happen in order for it to get to that point, which was just incredible to kind of hear from her. Just a very, very sweet lady. Teenage engineering, OPZ, I had the one of the key people from that team on as well, which is my another device. I'm saying it like you know what it is exactly. I don't know if you do or not, but it's a device that I use to make music. Portable device, very small, extremely powerful, battery operated, and you can make like CD quality, high quality stuff on there, which is really great. I'm probably missing a lot of people. My wife, of course, had her on for, we did a green smoothie challenge,
Mm.
and we had a episode that we recorded like I think it was the last day of the 10-day challenge, where we had smoothies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and just talking about what that experience was like was really, really interesting and fun. And pretty much everyone else as well was also a great episode, but those are just a few that I'll mention. The list does go on, but yeah, check out klexperience.com. Check me out on Courtmaster for the entire catalog.
Awesome. Not to be confused with kale, which you would put in a green smoothie.
That's a fact. That is a fact. Excellent. Love it. That's our little inside joke there that we chatted about, right? When we first met each other on Instagram.
Exactly. When I thought
Very
Cal experience was actually kale experience.
kale experience. Yep. I'm gonna do something with that eventually.
Yep, totally. Love it. Well, thank you for taking us down memory lane. It's great to get to know you a little bit and all the different kind of universes that you move in.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the questions. And that was, now I see why they say that you're the best up and coming podcast host, because that was so eloquent, because the questions were great. I see you maybe have done your homework in terms of how to be a great host, or maybe it comes naturally. But either way, the fact that there's like a, sort of follow up response from you that's like, great. And like for me, like I sometimes my follow up response is on, I mean, not sometimes, all the time, my follow up responses when I'm hosting, they're usually long. And I'm
Mm,
like, just because they are, just because that's the, but I have to kind of like, when I rebrand the show, I have to kind of think about the fact that, and I'm sure you could probably let me know if this is true or not. Like the fact that you're going to over time have a regular sort of amount of listeners, so they will know you very well because they know about you because they're hearing from you on every single episode. So like the moment that you are repeating stories that may be applicable because the person that you're interviewing doesn't know this about you because they haven't listened to everything. But if you're repeating a story, that might be fine in the conversation context, but perhaps there's going to be a way and a criticality to not have those in the final episode kind of thing.
mm.
And that obviously takes time to edit and stuff. So that's just a little tidbit. Like I love the way that you ask questions. So thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So, boys and girls, now we're going to turn the tables, and I'm going to wear the questioner, interviewer hat right now. But before we do that, I just have to let you know, Jane, that when I was telling my wife, this happened twice. I said, "Yeah, I'm having a conversation with Jane Z." And the first time I said it, she was like, "Jay Z?" She thought I said Jay Z, and it was just so funny. We had a little dialogue about it, and then and then like 2 days later, like I think earlier today, I said, oh yeah, 12 o'clock today. I have the conversation with Jane Z today, and then she immediately like thought it again, like Jay Z, like because it sounds like it. I'm like, no, it's not Jay Z, it's Jane Z, but close.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
They used to call me
pretty
Jay Z in
much.
high school.
Exactly. Is that right or no?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, they
Yeah, I
did.
love it. Okay,
Hmm.
that's fantastic. That's good. That's good. All right, so I got some questions for you here,
I'm
and they're
ready.
going to be just fun, casual questions. We're going to get a chance to know Jane Z out here. All right, that's what's about to happen. So, first question for you, my friend. Tell me about your favorite or your most memorable Christmas growing up.
I love this question. So the first thing I thought of actually was this tree. Well, it wasn't like a full tree, this like paper tree that my mom made. So my parents and I moved to Canada when I was 4. We moved from China. And so
Hmm.
it took us a while to figure out what Christmas was and what it was all about. But I think by the time the second year rolled around, we got that, it was a time when you gather together and you give each other presents and things. We were, a pretty low income immigrant family. So we didn't go out and buy a tree, but excuse me, but my mom and I, we would love doing crafts together. And so she bought a bunch of construction paper and we spent an afternoon just like cutting out a giant tree and pasting that on our wall. So that was like our kind of like
Wow.
faux Christmas thing.
Yeah.
Over the years, we slowly upgraded. But when I became an older sister to my sister and brother, it became very fun to play the Santa Claus role. And I
Oh.
will say, and this is a fun fact for anyone that knows my sister, who's like a little celebrity on YouTube, Generation DIY.
Little.
But she believed in Santa Claus until she was 13 years old because my mom
Mm.
and I did such a good job at putting out the
Whoa.
milk and cookies and, you
Yeah.
know, and using different enough wrapping paper that she wouldn't get suspicious. So that was a really fun part of Christmases growing up.
I love that. That's so cool. That does sound amazing because like something like that while it's happening, there's a chance, maybe even a good chance that your mom um doesn't realize how impactful that experience is going to be for you. Like that's something that naturally and clearly was so memorable and something that you'll probably never forget. So I think that's really special. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
All right. So next question is inspired by a conversation that I had with someone, and it's about who would you go to brunch with if you can go to brunch with anyone, and specifically, there's a follow up question with which says who would you go to dinner with, and the reason I had to put the follow up question is because the person that I was having this conversation with before was like brunch and dinner are going to be different people because they're a different setting, right? One's a little more turn up, one's a little more introspective. So if they're
Mm.
different people in your case, who would you be seeing or who would you be hanging with?
Oh my gosh. So many people.
I know.
The first person that popped into my head is not even a real person, but Mary Poppins.
Okay, nice. All right.
That was my favorite movie growing up. Maybe still one of my all time faves.
Hmm.
But I think she is just such a character, and she's mysterious too. It's like who's the real person behind all the spit spot. Everything's neat,
Uh
and how
huh.
does she keep her composure and and be a lady, but also that like strict parental role. I don't know. I just love her as a figure. I don't.
Yeah.
Mm, she'd maybe be more like an afternoon tea kind of person.
Okay.
And then,
Afternoon tea.
yeah,
Literally what I'm doing right now.
yeah,
Afternoon tea.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there you go. Um, Other names that come to mind: Sophia Amoruso. She's one of the entrepreneurs that I look up to. She was the founder of
Oh,
Nasty Gal and then Girl
okay.
Boss, and now she runs this business class for founders. But there's
Hmm.
so much that I would want to pick her brain on, and she is one of my dream guests for the podcast. So hopefully, not dinner,
Wow.
but one day maybe an actual conversation.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to think who else. A lot of authors, a lot of the people behind me sitting here on this shelf would be really
Ah.
fascinating to interview. Someone
Yeah.
who's not with us anymore, but Anthony Bourdain would have been
Mm.
amazing to go out for a meal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some incredible stories. Um, and a really opinionated way of seeing the world, and also just like being able to hear his thoughts on the food itself and
Mm-hmm.
hear him describe that experience would be really cool.
That's really, yeah. That that his story is just so interesting because and my wife says it all the time, like when you look at, not to get somber, but when you look at like his role, his job, what he was doing, traveling and eating, and you realize that there was other things, not naturally, but other things apparently, right, going on in his life. um that it's like no matter what is going on in our lives, like it's always first of all important to check in on people, to not assume that everything is all right just because it appears all right. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting to travel, you're getting to eat
Yeah.
anything you want, and you can have a show, like that's like you're good, like like
Mm.
there's other factors and stuff that I think are just so important that I'm learning, just the importance, like we were talking earlier, that voice to text thing, like it really it's really not to send anyone on a guilt trip, but it's not a high level of effort to to take 10 seconds out and just send that voice text, assuming they have an iPhone. If they don't have an iPhone, then I don't know. I don't know how likely it is to
Things gotta
happen.
change.
Things might have to change, because sending an actual text like that does take a little bit of effort. But um I love your response too. So I've never seen Mary Poppins. Sorry.
You gotta
I'm
watch
sorry.
it.
I
We'll have to
know, like,
debrief next time. That's your
for
homework.
sure.
Watch Mary
For
Poppins.
sure. Once I do watch it, and because I'm curious about. I love the fact that you just went left field in a good way. Like you said, I want to talk to this fictional character just so I can, like, you would find that interesting. I love that. I didn't expect to hear that. That's definitely dope. And I also have to make a comment about when you pointed out your books behind you. I'm looking at that color
The
array
color
there.
scheme.
Like, that is really nice. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it took a few
Yeah.
times of shuffling around to get the right, and it still
Yeah.
might evolve. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because on the bottom row, it looks like you have like the all the whitish and then all
Mm-hmm.
like the
Yeah, the
darkish on the
black and white.
bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That is some good stuff. That's very. What inspired you to do that?
Actually, my thesis advisor from grad school, he organized all his books by color. And actually,
Mm-hmm.
one of the books I think I have here, or maybe it's not on the shelf, but is called The Secret Lives of Color. And every page is a different, like very specific Pantone color. And it talks
Wow,
about some historical story about that color. Um,
that's cool.
yeah.
That is really cool. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Next question is a little bit about you pursuing your passion. So you are someone who, as we talked about earlier, I think we have a lot in common. We have at least two things in common. One thing we don't have in common is that we don't both love Mary Poppins, but that's okay. I
Not
haven't
yet.
seen it yet, so exactly. I have to see it first, and then we're gonna see. But the fact that you are, musically gifted, and the fact that you have a show that that was really attention grabbing for me, and in terms of the thoughtfulness of your guests, the way that you conduct yourself, as well as, and this is a little bit off the cuff, it's still related to the question, but you clearly put a lot of you put a lot into your offering, into your podcast. So what I mean specifically by that is, take a look at your, like, for example, something as simple as your like on your website, you have like, I guess, the episode, each individual episode, like, graphic of like the person, and then like the outline of the person, and like the color scheme and all that stuff. Like, it really jumps out at me, even just the whole flow of the website, where you can go there, and for someone who is first hearing about you, and they're like, okay, she's on, I think, how many episodes, like 50 or 60, somewhere,
37 so
30,
far.
37.
Hmm.
Okay, so I was way off, so I don't know where I came from. 50, 60. But 37. So like, you go there and you're like, oh man, like any new person, right? When there's a whole lot of episodes, like, where do we start? Do I start from the beginning? Is the beginning going to be a stellar episode, or is he or she just kind of getting into the flow? Maybe I'll jump in the middle. Do I jump to the latest? But you have what? Fan favorites. Boom. One, two, three. These are three popular episodes. They're not the best episodes. They might be the best episodes, but these are three ones that I think, that you think, someone can start with and really find enjoyment and get a feel for the show with. That is fantastic, and the way it's all laid out is just really great. So, coming from someone who was doing something different than this, and now you kind of pivoted, and now you're doing something that's like you pursuing your passion. I just want to kind of hear a little bit about what that experience has been like for you. Has it been all good since you left? Has there been times where you thought to yourself, like, the amount of challenge that it and work that it's actually presenting might be a little bit overwhelming? Like, kind of talk to me a little bit about sort of what that process is like.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for noticing and appreciating my work. Yeah, I mean it helps that I have a design and marketing background, so those are things I notice a lot is how you present your work. And for a
Mm-hmm.
podcast, I still think of it as a visual medium because as you're listening, I think I read this in an Ira Glass comic book once that radio is a visual medium because as you're listening you still conjure images in your mind. And so for me that's why Instagram is such an important channel because it allows me to create visuals to complement the stories that you're listening to.
Yeah.
um, yeah, in terms of actually doing this work, I'm just so grateful. That's the first thing that comes to mind because I get to have conversations like this every day, every week with really
Mm-hmm.
interesting people, and then on the back end of that, I get to make connections, real relationships with people who are similarly going through this journey like me of figuring out how to balance career and life. How do you define work and passion? And how do you build a more meaningful life? And I use the word build in a conscious way because I do think it is an active choice.
Mm-hmm.
That it takes work to find a life that is meaningful. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit wishy-washy and cliche, but I think that's what we all want, right? Is to find more purpose and meaning out of our lives. So that's kind of the why
Mm-hmm.
behind Inside Out. And also what you mentioned a couple minutes ago around the uh, just because things look okay on the outside doesn't mean they are on the inside. And that's a lesson I learned when I was shutting down my last venture is it's very easy to appear successful or okay through social media and through these outer means. But mental health is so important whether you communicate about that or not. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, I've learned that uh, to go far in life, you really do have to take care of what's inside first. You yourself
Mm-hmm.
have to be okay in order to give to others and to give your best self and perform well. So that's another key message in the podcast. So the fact that I get to talk to people about that is really, really rewarding. um I mean, obviously it comes with challenges too of working for yourself. Is you have
Mm-hmm.
to keep yourself accountable. With content too, you have to consistently show up, and I don't always want to do that. When you're
Yeah.
frontward facing, you don't always want to
Yeah.
get in front of a camera. You don't always feel ready for that. So that is a part of the job too, and I'm learning that maybe I need to manage my time better and block out, this is my content creation time versus engagement time and things like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think with anyone creating content on the internet, it's like a constant learning and keeping up with trends and just staying on top of it. It is a certain type of work that I think not everyone is into, especially if you're like your wife, a little bit more private or
Mm-hmm.
you're not as social. I happen to be a very extroverted person, and so it suits my personality really well.
Sure.
Um, and yeah, I know that it's the long game as well. So I'm not banking on this being my income source at the moment. That's another thing, that's not necessarily a struggle, but just a reality of being in the game is that
Mm-hmm.
you got to make it work in other ways. So I've picked up some part time work on the side just to keep
Mm-hmm.
myself going while I build up equity within my own brand. So that's how I think about it on a business level. But overall, I'm having a really good time, learning a lot, meeting really awesome people. That's probably the biggest perk is like meeting really cool people like you every week.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, thank you for that compliment at the end, and also that's such a great and introspective way of looking at this whole thing, especially when you mentioned about it being sort of a long game, which is that's so true and so critical. I was looking at my YouTube channel the other day. I was looking at the analytics a little bit there, and just knowing, and I think it's very, very similar with the podcast game, especially with the fact that you have such a presence on, like you said, on Instagram as well. Like your Instagram account and your podcasts are they're like they're kind of, I would say, like essential. Well, I don't know if that's the right word, but they complement each other so well. Let's put it that way, right? Because you have the questions and you have the stories and you have interactions. You have all these things that are keeping people engaged in what's going on. And then you listen to an episode after, and then maybe there's some conversation about that particular topic, because they're all kind of related, from what I can see, to the guest that you currently release an episode with. So I think that's a brilliant strategy. And yeah, the accountability part is so true as well, right? The accountability of, we are answering to ourselves. And so to me, and I think we'll go on this a little bit more later when we start talking about more stuff in depth with the content creation stuff. But I just think that it is so important for us to sometimes feel okay knowing that, yes, at times we do need to take a break, we do need to take a step back, and we can't and really shouldn't feel guilty or bad about that, right? It's like, it's so, like, that's kind of what I'm doing after these next 4 episodes that I've released. I am taking a break interviewing people as I strategize and kind of come back with, like I may have mentioned, like rebranding and kind of making some tweaks. And that's exciting to me, right? It's exciting for me to take a step back and kind of just reassess everything. And so I'm glad to hear that, yeah, that you have that perspective. And yeah, the fact that, like you said, being able to talk to people, you said you're into doing that, as am I. Like, I'm sure you've had conversations with people prior to starting a podcast where you were probably like, man, this is such a great talk. I wish more people can share this experience. And here we are, fast forward however many months or years later it was when you had that thought. So keep up the great work, my friend.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. We got married in Mexico. We had a destination wedding, and one of the things that we did was, early on when we were planning, we were realizing that we didn't have any like structure
Hmm.
to how and when we were planning. So we identified, I believe it was Tuesdays was our wedding day. So we that was like the day where after work we knew not to make any other plans and stuff like
Mm.
that. And that definitely worked for us. I'm excited for you guys, and I'm excited to, I don't want to rush it, but once the wedding does happen, like, that's going to be dope, and you guys are going to have a blast, and it's a beautiful thing. Friends, family, all that stuff that any of your married friends would have shared with you. It's all true. It's
Yeah.
all good stuff.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Very cool. All right, one more question. So this question is one that's very thought out, well thought out, because it's not what is your favorite movie and what is your favorite show of all time, because what if you don't have
Mm.
one? Then it's like an awkward silence, like, I don't know. And no. Name a movie that you love and name a show that you love. Mm.
Mm. Well, movie I gave away earlier, Mary Poppins is definitely up there.
Mhm.
I saw Shang-Chi recently, which was really
Ah,
cool.
okay.
I was a little nervous going into it because my one friend had really hyped it up. She's seen it 3 times. She brought us to
Oh,
go see it.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I was like, Marvel, all Asian cast. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I think they
Yeah.
did a really good job of it. It's like essentially a modern kung fu movie. They actually had
Wow.
some scenes in Chinese, which was like I've never seen in a American movie theater. So that was like, whoa, like big moment. And like the
Mhm.
storyline was great, the choreo was great, the music was great. So I don't know yet if it's like an all-time favorite movie, but I definitely had a great time. So that was like a
Mhm.
recent movie I loved. And then a
Mhm.
show I love, we watched Ozark this year, and
Ah, okay.
the fourth season is coming out this fall, and I'm really stoked for it. It's like, so my fiance and I have like, we alternate between like really wholesome shows like Great British Bake Off, and Happy Place, and things like that, to like really dark shows like Ozark and Mr. Robot. So Ozark was a recent one that we really enjoyed. Um, It's kind of like Breaking Bad, if you've seen that, but I think it's
Mm-hmm.
funnier in a dark way, and you get to really know the family and the characters over time.
Mm-hmm.
The premise is like it's about money laundering, and
Mm-hmm.
this guy and his family sort of like end up working with a Mexican drug cartel, and you just see how like a normal, I guess, middle class family has to deal with, you know, crime and like has to deal with
Mm-hmm.
their criminal activities and how they cover it up and try to act normal. But yeah, a lot of drama, a lot of darkness, lots of murder. But yeah, I really love it. It's really well done.
That's awesome. My wife has watched that show and she's spoken very highly of it, as have many other people I've spoken to. I don't know. I felt like I haven't watched it yet. I think we watched the first episode. If I'm not mistaken, is the first episode something that happens with his wife? Not to
Yes.
spoil something
Yeah.
significant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we did watch the first, and I have just a terrible habit of, well, maybe it's not terrible. I don't know if it's terrible or not, but I have a habit of just really not watching, not giving shows enough of a chance, just because like I have like my certain things that I love, like Fargo. Have you seen Fargo season one? Have you heard of that?
I've
Okay,
heard of it,
so
haven't seen it.
heard of it. Okay, it's a show that I don't hear anyone really talk about that much. But when I say like you talk about dark and things very similar to kind of the Ozark kind of feel, that's like to me one of the best single seasons of any show that I've ever seen. Like point blank, it's like spectacular in my opinion. So like I have like something where if a show is not like close to that level of high acclaim, then I just feel like I wasted so much time. But how are you going to know if it's there unless if you actually watch it and give it a chance? So I usually just don't. I don't know. I just have a hard time watching shows nowadays, especially
Mm,
with all the stuff that I'm doing, I guess. But
yeah.
Ozark is definitely one that I would. I mean, I'm not that far behind. It's only 3 seasons now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that might be one that I might have to kind of dabble in a little bit. Maybe when
Yeah.
I'm taking a break from doing the interviews and kind of sitting back and
There you
taking
go.
some content in for a change rather than always
Exactly. It's
making stuff.
research.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Love
But I
it.
definitely appreciate the info. I feel like I have this was great. Both of our questions, our sets of questions were very on point, and I think we both learned a lot about each other, and I think our viewers have a great sort of grasp on who we are as people now. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Okay. So we wanted to talk a little bit about content creation, burnout, um, the exciting things about having a passion that we're pursuing that we touched on a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to start just by talking about like something like social media. So I recently deleted all social media from my phone
Oh, wow.
but kept it on my iPad
Mm,
because I was very much using it too much throughout the day, checking Instagram too much to see if I have any inboxes, checking YouTube Studio way too much
mm,
to see how many new subscribers I have. And it's all like I realized this, I think it was last year. I was going for a walk when I kind of first started my YouTube channel. I had it for about 6 months. And I'm like going for a walk and like the swipe down thing to see any new subscribers and like the reaction, the dopamine thing. You may have heard about this as like a concept, right? That these app developers put in to their phones to get that little reward, like one more person or one more thing.
mm-hmm.
So I, watched the social network and I kind of realized that I was conflicted, knowing that it's not healthy, but also knowing that, hey, social media can't just get rid of it. We're
Right.
content creators. We have to have a presence there. So I'm kind of like figuring out right where what that balance looks like. There's been times where I've had the apps all deleted from my phone and only use it on my iPad, which is not always on me,
Mm,
and that's been
that's smart.
great. Very, yeah, it's been great not having access to it, say laying down in the bed, for example. Like if I really feel the need to check it, I got to go downstairs. I have to go somewhere else to kind of use it. But then, so right now, currently the state is like I have YouTube Studio and Instagram now reinstalled back on my phone as of maybe like a week ago because maybe when I'm posting something, it's just so much easier to do it rather than having to send files to my iPad and doing it that way. So I
Mm-hmm.
still need to kind of figure out what that looks like, not to mention the challenge of like comparing yourself to others on social
Oh,
media and
yeah.
all that type of stuff. So like how has, I guess, in your experience, like can you relate to that type of stuff a little bit? with social media?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a struggle. It's a constant struggle. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think no matter how big, quote unquote, you are on social, it's going to be an issue. Um yeah, the numbers can be very anxiety inducing, like whether they're going up or down and looking at other people. So I'm in a podcast accelerator program right now, and our coach has one of his rules for us is on social, you're only going to be posting and engaging, no more consuming. You're going to unfollow or mute everyone who's not either a listener or what he calls a dream 100. So someone you want to land as a guest, like someone you want to
Mm.
intentionally engage with for your
Mm-hmm.
content. Everybody else, whether it's like your friends from high school or whatever, you're going to mute or unfollow.
Mm-hmm.
In principle, I agree with this. However, like I said, I'm a very social person in my personal life too. So I do
Mm-hmm.
have my personal account and my podcast account on Instagram, that is,
Mm-hmm.
as well as Facebook. But I do still rely on social media to stay in touch with my friends. And
Mm-hmm.
so I haven't been able to like completely unfollow and turn off. And now that with Instagram, I'm doing a lot more DMing with listeners, it feels like there's a lot more overlap in the energy I'm spending interacting with people. And it's starting to bleed over into, or I guess not bleed over, but I find that I have a finite reserve of social energy, let's call it, that I can
Mm-hmm.
give to people.
Yeah.
And I find myself now having to choose between, do I give that energy to my relationship with my followers or with the people in my real life, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like the crossroads I'm at now. Um, I I like to think of most things as like not black and white and like not zero
Mm-hmm.
sum, but I think in this case, it kind of does have to be that way. And maybe it's like a seasonal thing. Like maybe like this month, I'm super charged on growing my audience and engaging with them, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
like let go of my personal life a little bit, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So that's something I'm trying to figure out right now. But in terms of, yeah, like being on my phone a lot, that's definitely also a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I had like a huge growth earlier this summer when I started curating reels and posting them, and a few of them popped off, like got over 1 million views. And
Mm.
so the first day that happened, my phone was just like constantly on, like my notifications were like overblown because like
Mm-hmm.
Instagram caps it at like 100 likes. So it was like that every time I refreshed my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like really overwhelming. I remember actually getting a headache that day because I was like looking at my phone so much. But I was like, oh my God, is it going to be like this forever? Have I made it?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that excitement died down after a couple months. And now it's like back to the usual. And I've lost some of those vanity subscribers who just, liked my page for the videos. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so now it's like back on the grind of like a regular content posting schedule and regular engagement. But yeah, I would say like my biggest struggle is like the continually showing up consistently, because I'll have like
Mm-hmm.
spurts where I put in a lot and then
Yeah.
I'll be like, I'm burnt out and I can't do it. So I don't have an answer to that necessarily, though I think in theory, a kind of content schedule and a regular schedule would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where I'm at now.
That makes a lot of sense. Having some type of schedule, if that, it seems like there's a lot of pros, with that, where that if it's not, whether it's, every specific days that you're doing that, and maybe it's what I'm doing right now with I'm gonna do a video on this as well eventually. I'll just kind of share it right now, but like looking at the things that you do in your life that are not necessarily bringing direct value,
Hmm.
but are important to have as a part of your total package of like things that you enjoy doing, for example. So like for me, let's say video games, right? Like I enjoy playing Super Smash Brothers online with people. I really love the competitive aspect of it. I love taunting a little I love taunting other characters, and they like, it's just funny to me. But I know that I can overdo it sometimes with that. So I'm like, okay, well, how do I get control over this, right? Like, because
Mm.
right, for a time, it would just be whenever I have like a little free time and I just feel like playing, I'll just go play rather than doing my taxes or working on this Excel sheet or doing this part of business or whatever the case is. So an easy way that I kind of got control over that is I told myself that for as long as I can, like I will never play a video game 2 days consecutively. So if
Mm.
I play at all today, then I won't play at all tomorrow. And I can play as much as I want today, but obviously not overdoing, not like saying, all right, well, today is my on day, so I'm gonna play all day. Not like that kind of thing. But even
Right.
if I play just for a few minutes, if I have like a little time, then that means that the next day, like I'm not playing at all. And that's been super helpful for me. So similarly, maybe social media, maybe there's a balance with that. I haven't tried that with that yet, a way to make it so that every other day I'm using it so that the days where I'm not, I'm just completely I'm still content creating, I'm still making stuff, but I'm just not looking at looking at social. And then I was going to say with regards to the personal. So right now I have, man, so I have Chordmaster, I have K-Mats, those are my like, music stuff, and then my tutoring business. And then I have my personal account, K_AL. So
Mm.
I had all of these as well as other accounts that I curate for Teenage Engineering, the music company that I mentioned. I curate 2 accounts over there as well.
Wow.
So it is a lot of stuff. It's not too much of a level of effort for the curating stuff. It's more just resharing, that type of thing. But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, dang, like when I post things on Chordmaster, sometimes I'll go to my KAL page and I'll share that to my story, and it was like, and if I have something that maybe is not music related, but I still want to share with people, I still think it's funny or interesting or whatever. I'm like, all right, well, let me share this on KAL so my friends, my friend group or whatever can see it. But I was saying to myself, like, what exactly is the value, like we were talking about earlier, we were talking about like wearing different hats, right? Like, okay, I can be a little bit more myself on KL and do silly stuff or joke around, but
Mm.
Courtmaster people are here for music tutorials or music or whatever the case is. But
Yeah.
I kind of had a realization for myself at least, which was that I don't I don't necessarily like, I want people to follow my core master stuff for music, but if they see some of my other stuff that I'm doing that maybe is a little bit more joking or a little bit not professional, like I share a meme or I share something that's just funny to me or whatever, like I didn't want to have a personal account to do that. It was
Mm.
becoming a thing where my personal account, like I had to ask myself, what kind of value is this bringing in my life? I can certainly keep Chordmaster and I can share stuff on there periodically. And so I ended up, long story short, ended up not deleting, but I guess was it disabling my KAL account. And I gave like a little, post on there,
Mm.
getting rid of this and very soon. So follow me over here or over here if you're interested in staying connected. And I took off comments. I didn't want it vanity. I didn't want, oh, where you going, blah, blah, blah. I was like, nope, just take a look if you're interested, like it's all good. And then also, like, to your point, the thing that your accelerator program coach mentioned really resonated with me too, which is that realizing that there are people that are your friends and then there are people that are your acquaintances, and I was following all of those people on my personal account, and there's he or she, the person that is it a man or a woman?
He.
So
Hmm.
he is doing, he has a really great point, I think, because like we are not equipped to care about what everyone is doing. You know what I'm saying? Like we're equipped to like
Mm.
truly care about what only some people are doing who we really truly do care about. And I had to really learn that because I kind of look at myself a little bit and I realize this, and it's not necessarily a good, maybe, or bad thing, but like I'm like a people pleaser kind of person. Like it makes me happy. It makes me feel good knowing that I did something or said something to make someone happy.
Hmm.
Um, and so I would feel naturally if like if I'm scrolling and I'm like, man, I haven't thought of this person in a while. Like, man, but I used to be friends closer with them or something like that. And I look, I'm like, man, they're getting engaged or this milestone is happening in their life.
Mm.
Part of me would feel like a little bit like, wow, why didn't I know this? Like we fell out of touch. But on the same token, like we can't keep up with everyone. You know what I'm saying? So the idea
Yeah.
of muting and the idea of, I mean, it might sound mean, like, oh, you're unfollowing me. It's like, yeah, I am. Like I think I think it's okay. Like we can't follow everyone, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to protect your energy because you only have so much to give, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I like
That's
that.
definitely
I
true.
was going to ask about your personal brand and how you manage all of that, but it sounds like you found a solution, which is, focus on the channels that you're you're really focused on.
That's right. Focus there. And now that I have a foundation, like I mentioned, being myself. Like I think I posted some weird stuff on my story, like not weird, like inappropriate, just like random stuff. Like I was feeling like I want to do something. I forget what it was, but I posted on my Khordmaster story, and it was just like I don't care. Like I'm just gonna share this because it's just something that I just want to share, kind of thing. You can
Mm-hmm.
check it out later. I think it was a video of me upside down or something. Like my phone is upside down. I think I said something like, "How is my hat?" I was wearing a hat, but the video I flipped it. That kind of like, how is it still on my head? Something dumb like that. Like no one's gonna like. Who cares about like what is that?
But
But if
those are
someone
like
looks
the
at that like,
funny videos that like people get to know you through.
exactly. That's exactly right. And I want people that are following me to get to know me more than the person who, not just, but the person who's solely focused on music and solely like there's other parts of my personality that I want to sort of bring to the forefront a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a journey. What I've learned from my sister and talking to other content creators is that people come for the content and stay for the personality. So I think
Mm,
the like ideal state is when, just like you were talking about with your job earlier, when you can bring your full self to work, when you can bring your full self to your audience, is like that's the ideal state, because then you don't have to pretend to
hmm.
be somebody else, right?
That's exactly right. And everyone's real or true self, unfortunately, I think at least, is not necessarily the personality that is going to be attractive to everyone else, if that makes sense, right? Like
Mm,
sometimes I mean, sometimes people do need to change it around, maybe, but then on the same token, like maybe not. Maybe you just be yourself, and there are people that I imagine, unless if you're just a complete a-hole, then maybe you have to change it around or something. But it's food for thought, and it's definitely like a interesting, it's an interesting journey, and it's cool being able to talk to someone who is on the same wavelength, but also kind of doing things similar. And like I mentioned during our previous chat, like I'm excited to kind of continue on with the just continue seeing what you're doing and following what you're doing, and sharing best practices and stuff. And the times that we've spoken, in the brief times that we've had conversations, when you mentioned about the accelerator program and just experiences that you've had, like you and not to mention, of course, the platforms and the stuff that you've mentioned, like in terms of what's making your life so much easier to for the editing and all that good stuff. But yeah, you've shared a lot of great things with me, like that's resonated with me, that in terms of the content creation journey. So I just want to say I definitely appreciate that.
oh, thank you. And honestly, likewise, it's great to just have someone to bounce ideas with and talk, about this journey with. So I'm sure this won't be the end. I'm sure we'll do this again.
For sure. I'll be at your conference that you have.
There you
Your
go.
is that what it's going to be called?
It'll
Conference,
be a
right? Or
retreat conference.
retreat. There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah. More
Re-
fun than a
conference is too
conference.
much. Yeah, conference has too much. That's very true. Too much of a work field. Like we used to go to conferences at Verizon,
I
but if
know,
retreat
with
is
you
like,
wear your lanyard and
yeah, exactly. Well, I definitely appreciate it. And I look forward to, yeah, like I said, I don't want to just repeat what I just said. I was about to say, I look forward to following your journey. I just said that, didn't I? But you definitely have an awesome rest of your day today. And, I was about to say it again, look forward to staying in touch again.
yeah. I'll repeat that. I look forward
There
to
we
staying
go.
in touch. This was awesome. Thanks, Kevin.
Awesome. You're very welcome. And the good news is that my wife does have some quiche that she's making in the oven right now. So I'm very excited about
Ooh,
this.
ooh, I can
Very
almost smell
excited.
that.
About to go
Well,
crush
go
like at least half of it.
enjoy.
Thanks so much.
All
Have an
right.
awesome rest of your day, all right?
Thank you. You too.